Now, if the Minister is ready, we'll move on to our second statement on the warm home discount. Minister.
With your permission, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to make a statement about the action we are taking to protect families in the face of global spike in gas prices. In recent months, wholesale gas prices have risen to their highest level in 2 years. They are up nearly 15% compared to the previous price cap period. As a result, this morning Ofgem announced the energy price cap will rise by around £9 a month between April and June. We know that this will be unwelcome news for families across the country that are already worried about their bills. But as Ofgem CEO Jonathan Brearley said today, our reliance on international gas markets leads to volatile wholesale prices and continues to drive up bills. This week marks 3 years since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and once again the British people are paying the price of our country being exposed to fossil fuel markets controlled by petrostates and dictators. The truth is, every day we remain stuck on gas is another day families, businesses, and indeed the public finances are at risk from these kinds of price spikes. That is why sprinting to homegrown clean energy is the only way to end our exposure and our vulnerability as a country. In the meantime, we are determined to do all that we can to protect people, and today I want to set out the measures we are taking. First, we want to provide greater help to the most vulnerable in time for next winter. The Warm Homes discount currently gives around 3 million families £150 rebate on their energy bills. The current system provides help to those on means-tested benefit, but excludes millions of people in homes not classified as hard to heat, as a result of criteria introduced by the last government in 2022. This criteria is seen by many as arbitrary and unreliable. It means there are families in almost exact same circumstances, with some receiving help and others not. Today, we have announced we will consult on proposals to abolish this restriction, meaning all households receiving means-tested benefit would be eligible for the bill support next winter. From 3 million families in the current system to more than 6 million with our proposals, so that 1 in 5 families in Britain would get help with their bills through this scheme, including an additional 900,000 families with children and a total of 1.8 million households in fuel poverty. Because this government is determined to do everything in our power to help people struggling to pay their energy bills and support the most vulnerable in our society. Second, because of our exposure to fossil fuels, the cost of living saw bills rocket to $2,500 and families plunge into unstable debt. Debt which continues to accumulate today. In the system we have inherited, every bill payer pays for managing this debt burden. We are determined to act on behalf of those in debt and all the bill payers who are paying the cost of it. So we are working closely with Ofgem to accelerate proposals on a debt relief scheme that will support households who have built up unsustainable energy debt through the crisis and have no way of paying it. This will be an important first step to cut the cost of servicing bad energy debt, and under these plans, the target would be to reduce the debt allowance paid by all bill payers to pre-crisis levels. Third, we know that one of the best answers to high bills is upgrading homes so they are cheaper to run. So we will shortly be announcing details around £500 million of funding under the Warm Homes Local Grant and £1.3 billion under the Warm Homes Social Housing Fund to invest in home upgrades over the coming years and cut fuel poverty. In all, up to 300,000 households will benefit from upgrades in the next financial year through our Warm Homes plan, whether it's new installation, double glazing, a heat pump, roof solar panels. That's more than double the number supported in the last financial year. And we're going to ensure that landlords invest in energy efficiency upgrades that will make homes warmer and bring down the cost for tenants, lifting up to 1 million people out of fuel poverty, so that we are doing everything that we can to ensure people have the security of a home they can afford to heat. Fourth, we are clear that we need a regulator that fights for consumers. That is why we have called on Ofgem to use its powers to maximum to protect consumers, challenging unlawful back billing, taking action on inaccurate bills, driving smart meter rollout, giving every family the option of a zero standing charge tariff so they have more choice in how they pay for their energy, and ensuring compensation is given for wrongful installation of prepayment meters. And we are moving forward on our review of Ofgem to ensure it has the powers that it needs to stand up for consumers and clamp down on poor behaviour by energy companies. Now, this set of measures, Madam Deputy Speaker, shows a government willing to use all the powers at our disposal to help protect consumers. But, important as these measures are, I must stress to the House there is no proper solution to rising energy bills while this country remains exposed to the rollercoaster of fossil fuel markets. And that is why this government is moving at speed to deliver clean power, lifting the onshore ban in England, consenting nearly 3 gigawatts of solar, setting up Great British Energy, delivering record-breaking renewable auction, making it easier to build the next generation of new nuclear power stations, and getting on with the job of implementing the reforms to the planning system, grid, renewable auctions set out in our Clean Power Action Plan. And look, I have to report to the House, however, that despite the importance of this mission, despite the fact that we are running at it, we continue to receive representation from parties opposite not to speed up, but to slow down. Reject solar power, reject onshore wind, reject offshore wind, reject new transmission infrastructure, representations that, if we accepted, would leave us more vulnerable, more insecure, and the British people paying the price. And let me tell the House, we will reject those representations. We know that every solar panel we put up, every wind turbine we build, every piece of transmission infrastructure we construct makes us more secure. And every time the party opposite opposes these measures, they double down on their legacy of leaving this country exposed and the British people deeply vulnerable. Madam Deputy Speaker, this government will do whatever it takes to stand up for working people now and in the future, protecting families and businesses from the consequences of global events, driving forward on our plans to bring down bills for good, and doing everything in our power to support those most in need. I commend the statement to the House.
I call the Shadow Minister Andrew Bowie.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Minister for advance sight of her statement. Today, the Government has announced an expansion of the Warm Homes discount, a change to the criteria which will see more low-income households receive a £150 payment to heat their homes. But for many, this payment will be immediately eaten up by the increase in the energy price cap. We must be clear. The best protection for vulnerable households is to prioritise cheap energy. The announcement today is, frankly, a sticking plaster approach to rising energy bills. This government fails to grasp the core issue. Our energy costs in this country are far too high for businesses, for industry and, of course, for bill payers. When the energy price cap rose in 2022, the now Secretary of State called it a national emergency. He called for an urgent freeze on energy bills. He called it a lack of leadership. Now in government, the only thing he's able to freeze is vulnerable pensioners by taking away their winter fuel allowance with no notice. Does she think this shows leadership? I know that my constituents, and presumably hers too, will be concerned about their bills rising, concerned about inflation creeping back up, hitting 3% in January, despite the hard work done last year to bring it under control, and angry that Labour's promise to cut bills by £300 is being broken. But the worst part of all this, Mr. Speaker, is that this government, led by ideological zealotry from the Secretary of State, is doubling down. Their obsession with going further and faster than any country in the world to meet their own self-imposed 2030 target is going to increase people's bills even further. The renewables industry has warned that their rush to build record renewables in the next 5 years will push up prices and I quote, consumers will lose out. The government's rush to build twice as much grid in the next 5 years as has been built in the last decade will increase the network costs on people's bills. And the OBR has said that the environmental levies will increase to £14 billion in 2030, largely driven by the hidden cost of renewables, all of which will end up on people's energy bills. The Labour Party were not honest about their promise to cut bills by £300 during the election. They were not honest about their plan to take the winter fuel payment away from millions of pensioners living in poverty. And now they are not being honest with the British people about what their plans will do to our energy bills. If there is anything we have learnt over the last few years, it's that the cost of energy is absolutely critical to any modern economy. We cannot go on following ideology over evidence and putting political targets ahead of what will cut the cost of energy in this country. But this government is in denial. That's why they scrapped the fuel system cost analysis commissioned when we were in office. I have to ask the Minister, when will proposals for a debt relief scheme be published? Can she confirm how much she expects levies to increase over the next 5 years? Will she commission a fuel systems cost analysis of what the 2030 target will do to people's energy bills? And will she confirm how much bills will rise by before we see the £300 off what we were all promised?
Minister. And it's special question is Madam Deputy Speaker, not Mrs. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The honourable member is right that energy prices are too high. On that we agree. And we also agree that that is worrying for families and businesses across the country. But what I would point out to him is that 80% of the rise that we have seen this time has been driven by wholesale prices. And I would gently remind him that the reason why we are in this position, the reason why we are so exposed to global fossil fuel prices that we have no control over, is because his party spent 14 years in government squandering the opportunity to accelerate the transition to clean power, squandering the opportunity to reduce our dependence on global fossil fuel prices, and leaving families across the country exposed. The status quo is not tenable. We are at the point where energy prices are at a historic high under his government. Now, that is a status quo that we are not willing to contend with. And that is the very reason, not because of ideology, but because we see the obvious. As long as we are dependent on global fossil fuel prices, we will be on this roller coaster. And that is the thing that is driving the push to clean power. The party opposite has no alternatives. We have a clear alternative. We run to clean power, but whilst we do that, we provide support to the most vulnerable households in the short term. The debt support scheme, to answer his question, Ofgem are in the process of consulting on that debt support scheme as we speak, and we will support them to put that in place because we know that the debt burden has increased by £3.8 billion, and we think that there is over 1.8 million households that will help and be supported by that. And we are absolutely committed to cutting bills. Everything we are doing as a government is driven by that desire and that clear commitment to cut bills down. We will do that in terms of short-term measures, but critically, we will do that by running at clean power by 2030. We have a plan to deal with energy bills. The party opposite has a plan to slow down, do nothing, and it will be the British public that pay the price.
John Trickett.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It's clear that the Conservative Party left this country dependent on global fossil fuel supplies, which both burn the planet but are also damaging in terms of price controls. But the Tories left something else as well, which is a rigged energy market, which gave £480 billion to the energy industry and yet left 8 million households, that's probably 17 million people, in fuel poverty, paying more than 10% of their income on energy. And so it's welcome today that the Minister has announced the warm homes discount of an additional £150. But that is a one-off payment for next winter, as I understand it. It doesn't resolve the underlying problem. £150 as a one-off payment, but today the regulators increased the cap by £111 or £108, depending on how you calculate, per year on an ongoing basis. And so, whilst welcoming the government's announcement, and I recognise her commitment to changing the way that things work, will my honourable friend tell the House that we intend to end this rigged market which works in favour of the profiteers and tackle the scourge of fuel poverty, whilst at the same time securing a just transition to clean energy?
My honourable friend is absolutely right. We have an energy market that does not work enough in the interest of consumers, and we are committed to turning that around. That is why we are reforming the electricity market. That's why we're trying to drive forward a shift from fossil fuels to clean power. And that's why we are putting in place the review of Ofgem at the moment to make sure that customers and consumers are at the very heart of everything we do in the energy market. This is an important step to make sure that we are supporting households in the short term. We took action this winter, up to £1 billion of support through government and industry in order to help the most vulnerable customers. This ensures that next winter we will provide support, but it is not the end of our ambition. It's the start of our ambition to reform the energy market.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson, Vikki Slade.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Minister for advance sight of her statement. It is so deeply troubling that we remain so reliant on the foreign gas markets, and as a result, vulnerable people here are going to see that increase in their bills. I completely welcome the proposals to expand the Warm Homes discount, but no one should have to choose between heating and eating. We all know that. But the reality is we've got to get beyond that issue and reduce consumption, not just hand public money to our energy giants. Lib Dems have been calling for a long time for a 10-year emergency home insulation plan, and it's disappointing that the amendment put forward by my honourable friend from South Cambridgeshire to the GB Energy Bill was not taken up. And I would be really grateful if that could be looked at again in any other scope. What timeline can we expect for the upgrade to building standards for new homes and the decent home standards for existing properties so that people are not having to consume as much electricity and gas? Until all our homes are properly insulated, what progress is there on requiring all energy companies to sign up to a single social tariff, paying particular attention to those pensioners left cold after removal of the winter fuel allowance? And I was contacted, Madam Deputy Speaker, by Michael from H2 Eco. They are a company that does lots of retrofitting, and they told me about the HUG grant, the affectionately titled Home Upgrade Grant, ending in March and due to be immediately replaced with continuity by the Warmer Homes local grant. They were told on Friday that it's not going to be continued and there was going to be a pause. 5 weeks before the scheme ends, with people told on the one hand that people would be able to pre-register and now being told there's going to be a pause. They told me to tell you they're concerned that they'll lose their contractors. Sorry, not you. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Minister. I apologise.
2 minutes for your contribution and you're just over, so if you're coming to a conclusion, that'd be great.
I will, Madam Deputy Speaker. They asked me to ask the Minister, did it again, what guarantee can the Minister offer that the scheme will open immediately, not be slowed by reviews, and when will you set out your long-term plans before 26?
You set out, because I won't be responding from the dispatch box. Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Look, the honourable member is right that insulating people's homes and upgrading people's homes is the route by which we reduce bills and deliver homes that are warmer and cheaper to run. This is why we are absolutely committed to the Warm Homes Plan. And rather than being a pause, we are running at this. So next financial year, 300,000 homes will be upgraded. That's double the amount from last financial year. And that is just the start of our Warm Homes Plan. We are working with colleagues in MHCLG in order to bring forward the future building standards, and critically, we have spoken to industry, we have spoken to installers, we have spoken to local government, and we acutely are aware that there should and there cannot be a hiatus. So the reason we're moving forward the local grant and the Warm Home Social Housing Scheme is to ensure that there isn't a hiatus. I'd ask the honourable member to write with the specifics of that scheme, because we are trying to design this in order to stop that. And critically, on the question of the social tariff, look, we are clear. Clean power is the route by which we bear down on energy costs in the long term, but we will need to support the most vulnerable customers as we get there. There are different ways in which we can design a social tariff, and we're looking at options for how we support the most vulnerable at the moment, of which the Warm Homes discount is a key part of delivering that.
Luke Murphy.
Madam Deputy Speaker, many of my constituents and others across the country will be concerned about the increase in their energy bills announced today. So I welcome the government's extension of the Warm Home discount, the measures to tackle unsustainable debt, and also to push the regulator to do more to support consumers. But I must say the Shadow Minister talks as if his government left a legacy of low energy prices when it was his government that left an appalling legacy of high energy prices. And I've also stood in this House and Westminster Hall and heard shadow ministers attack renewables, electric vehicles. Do they not realise they are attacking the very means of bringing down the cost of energy? Does the Minister agree with me that our clean energy mission and renewables is the fastest way to ensure we get off the dependence on the volatile fossil fuels, and that also leaves us at the mercy of Vladimir Putin?
Thank you to my honourable friend. Well said. The fact that the party opposite left us with the highest energy prices that we have seen in a generation is a legacy that, quite frankly, they should be hanging their heads in shame. So rather than critiquing us for trying to unpick and deal with the legacies they have left, I would strongly caution them to support the action that we're taking, your legacy. And my honourable friend is completely right. The route towards this, the way that we get out of this bind, left and inherited by the party opposite, is clean power, delivering renewables that we know are cheaper, delivering clean power by 2030. So he is right. The party opposite continues to be misguided, but thankfully we're the ones in the driving seat, not the party that we've left.
Select Committee Member Bradley Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Rising energy costs don't just affect households, but they also affect industry. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said that deindustrialising Britain is a false economy because it shifts production and emissions elsewhere. So can the Minister tell the House what is more important, chasing an arbitrary target or protecting industry and jobs?
Businesses are under pressure from high energy prices. We know that. Again, I would remind the party opposite that given your legacy, you should perhaps be a bit more humble about this. We are working with industry, and they recognise that the way in which we drive down clean power is we drive down energy bills is through clean power. The CBI came out this week saying that our energy revolution is good for business. It's the route to lower energy costs for business. It's the route to creating jobs across the country. We have a plan, not just for energy bills, but we have a plan for jobs. We have a plan for the economy that is rooted in clean energy, which is much, much better than the legacy that we have inherited.
Nessa Caliskan.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I thank the Minister for her statement. Thousands of my constituents are still dealing with the cost of living crisis, debt that they have found themselves in because energy prices had hit record levels under the previous government. And energy prices continuing to go up make their life more difficult, so I welcome the Minister's statement. Can I ask the Minister, though, for further reassurance about the immediate action the government can take to regulate energy companies who are taking their customers for a ride, like thousands of my constituents who still don't have meters in their homes, who are being billed unlawfully for backdated energy, and in some cases energy that they have not used. Can I ask the Minister to give this House further reassurance that there needs to be immediate action, as well as a long-term plan from this government to see the transition to clean energy?
Thank you to my honourable friend. She's absolutely right to point out the cost of living crisis that is blighting our constituencies across the country, with many people facing energy debt that is total £3.8 billion. But she's also right to point out that there are things that must be done to make sure that customers are served by this energy market. This is why we are making sure that the regulator has the power, and we are instructing the regulator to use the powers that it currently has to make sure that things like back billing, which we know is an issue, does not happen. The rules are very clear. We need those rules to be enforced to make sure that when customers are not receiving the best customer service from their suppliers, there are consequences. Our review of Ofgem is to make sure it has the powers that it needs in order to be that champion for consumers. Because in the end, the energy market must work in the interest of people, and we agree. That's not happening at the moment. That absolutely must happen after we reform it.
Committee Member Wera, Hobhouse.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In the UK, electricity prices are linked to the global fossil fuel market. And we know that this is at the bottom why UK households pay the price energy cost across Europe. To fix this, it has been suggested to use a single levy control system with two simple rates, one for electricity and one for gas, set by ministers. And that would allow the government to manage the cost for households and lower prices, especially for clean energy. Will the Minister look into this suggestion? And I'm happy to meet with her to go further through those details.
Thank you to the Honourable Member. Our reform of the energy market arrangements is looking at all the aspects of our electricity market that are currently not working. And so my colleague, Minister Shanks, is looking at this question. The Department are willing to work across the House to make sure that we get to the right arrangements, because we know that as long as gas continues to drive the cost of energy, that has a problem, that will create a problem and an impact on consumers. So this is a question that we are very alive to. It's a question that we will report on in due course.
Amanda Martin.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the Minister for her statement? I hear from many residents who are suffering with energy debt as a result of the previous government's failure to protect bill payers during the energy crisis, many of whom are petrified, are unable to move or unable to change providers. I welcome the acceleration proposal for a debt relief scheme, but can she provide more details on how this will help families in my constituency of Portsmouth North?
Thank you to my honourable friend. So energy debt, we know, is a big problem, and I've spoken to people across the country that are suffering with debt that's accumulated where they have no way of paying it, and many of them are having to forfeit energy as a consequence. Ofgem are currently consulting in a range of options, but at the heart of it is the principle that there needs to be a debt relief scheme. So whether we are writing off some of this energy debt that can't be paid, or we're putting in place prepayment payment plans, we want to make sure that that set of households, about 1.8 million, have the opportunity to drive that debt in a way that means that their energy will be sustainable. We think this is absolutely critical. It is dealing with the legacy of the energy crisis and dealing with the fact that many households have had to accumulate debt because they just could not pay prices of $2,500. An important step, and one that we are keen to support the regulator to deliver.
Sir Julian Lewis.
I entirely agree with the government that, as she said in her statement, we shouldn't be paying the price of our country being exposed to fossil fuel markets controlled by petrostates and dictators. But given that we cannot move completely to clean energy tomorrow, why does the government then insist on closing down, indeed concreting over our own potential fossil fuel gas reserves until such time as we can move to clean energy completely? Why should we import it from other states while piously saying we won't extract it from beneath our own country?
Yeah, very good question.
There will be a role for gas in our energy mix, but we are very clear that the route and the quickest way in which we get ourselves off this dependence is by clean power. So we have made a decision that we will put our energy into driving clean power by 2030, because in the end, that is the quickest route, that is the best route that will deliver for consumers, that will deliver for businesses, and ensure that we can deliver energy security, which is something that we agree about across the House, that will deliver financial security for families across the country.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I thoroughly welcome this statement, particularly the reform of Ofgem, the back billing. This is a key plank in the just transition as we move away from a rigged energy market that is totally reliant on imports of gas from dictators like Putin. But it's not just about the renewables and the transition to renewables. Does the Minister agree with me that in this transition, we will also be creating hundreds of thousands of new green jobs right across the UK, including in my constituency of Camborne, Redruth and Hale, covering onshore wind, offshore wind, geothermal, tidal and solar?
My honourable friend is absolutely right. At the heart of this is the opportunity to create jobs. It's the opportunity to boost local economies across the country. This is not just good for our energy independence. It is not just good for family finances, but it is good for our economy. It's good for every single part of the economy. And that is why we are committed, rather than slowing down, we will be accelerating to deliver clean power by 2030.
John Glen.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Families and businesses operate obviously in an environment with lots of different costs. And when they see increases in their tax bills, the burdens of potential new regulation and additional energy costs, they are bound to challenge themselves on what they can afford to invest. Now, the Minister is very clear on the strategic direction of the government, but does she not accept that in the short and medium term, the burdens during this journey to change are enormous for business and are going to have a massive effect on the level of investment in this country? And doesn't that concern her?
Minister.
So I would challenge the honourable member on this, because businesses are completely behind us. And the reason they're behind us is that they can see that clean power is the route. Clean power is the route by which we reduce energy, but critically, it's the route by which we create jobs. It's the route by which we are investing in our industry. This is not just good for people's pockets. It is not just good for dealing with the energy problem that we know we need to do and the affordability problem, but ultimately, it is good for the economy and it is good for business. This is a win-win. It's a shame that the party opposite can't see it, because it's obvious to us, it's obvious to industry, it's obvious to businesses across the country, and that is why we will continue to power and drive forward with our plans.
Deirdre Costigan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The previous Conservative government abjectly failed to insulate our leaky homes and get our home heating systems ready to take advantage of the cheaper, clean energy Labour is now creating. In addition to the very welcome discount that the Minister has announced today, does she agree that Labour's plan to upgrade hundreds of thousands of homes with heat pumps and with better insulation next year, that is a vital part of this government's commitment to lowering household bills?
My honourable friend is completely right. The failure to insulate enough homes and upgrade enough homes in order to insulate people for energy price spikes is another thing that the party opposite, they're hanging their heads in shame, rightly so. And she's absolutely right that we are committed to upgrading hundreds of thousands of homes. This is critical, because in the way that we ensure that households are insulated from prices, the way in which we drive down lower prices is to upgrade those homes. So this is a central part. We're already running at it with 300,000 over the coming year, but we will build on this because we want to make sure that homes across the country can benefit.
Select Committee Member Clayon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Chopping and changing home upgrade schemes, as we saw under the previous Conservative government, causes uncertainty and confusion, which is damaging for both consumers and installers alike. So will this government avoid that mistake by setting out long-term plans for energy efficiency schemes that go beyond 2026?
100%. We need a long-term plan so that every part of the system can respond to that. So our Warm Homes plan will try to set a long-term trajectory so that we can marshallise every part of the system that we need to in order to deliver hundreds of thousands of upgrades year in, year out.
Julian.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Firstly, can I welcome the Minister's announcement around the expansion of the Warm Homes discount. About 160,000 homes in my region, it's £150 more help they have with their energy bills. But clearly the root cause of higher prices is higher natural gas prices, doubled since the election in July 2024. We know that natural gas is 50 to 75% more expensive than wind and solar because the sun and the wind are free and natural gas clearly is not. So can the Minister assure me that we will get into clean energy by 2030 so we can get our energy bills down for good?
Thank you to my honourable friend for making the point so well. He is absolutely right that this is the route by which we can deliver cheaper energy, and we will assure him that we are committed to driving this for the reasons that he said. This is the way that we break the stranglehold that we're in. It's the way we get off this roller coaster of price rises and price falls that is impacting households across the country. So the commitment is there. We are running at that commitment.
Julian.
Madam Deputy Speaker, yet again a Department for Energy Minister comes to the House to tell us that they're moving at pace. The only thing moving at pace is the last shred of credibility from that department as they come and speak about protecting consumers from higher energy prices. And don't let's forget, this is the Labour Party who stripped 900,000 Scottish pensioners of their winter fuel payment, told us that fuel prices would go down £300, they're now £600 higher than the level they promised they would be ahead of the election. So can the Minister explain three things to me? Did the Labour Party profoundly misunderstand how energy in the United Kingdom works, or were they misleading the electorate? Why is it she's making such a big deal about Ofgem doing their actual job, getting after back-billing? Shouldn't they be doing that anyway? Why is that an announcement? And third of all, when will consumers on GB finally see some response from this government about higher energy bills?
I would remind the honourable member that the Scottish Government has jurisdiction on this area. We are working in collaboration with them to deliver this, but the Scottish Government does have responsibility, and he knows. We are committed to bearing down on energy bills. Of course we are. It is a central driving mission of everything that we're doing as a government. It's been 8 months, and I would hope that everyone can see that what we have done, whether it's the ban on onshore wind, removing that, whether it's a record-breaking auction, whether it's the plans that we have to support the most vulnerable households, we are running at this. We take our commitment seriously, and we are doing everything within our power to drive it. And I would suggest that he reminds his colleagues in Scotland that they ought to be using the powers that they have, including with the Warm Homes discount, in order to protect their consumers.
Chris Vince.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I welcome the Minister's statement today? This extra support will make a huge difference to residents in my constituency of Harlow. One of the issues of living in a post-war new town is that all the houses were built at roughly the same time, so the issues of insulation all appear at roughly the same time. At this morning's crisis summit, which I myself and the Honourable Lady opposite attended, there was a strong feeling that cross-departmental communication is key to ensuring funding like this gets to the people that need it the most. Would the Minister agree with me?
I completely agree with my honourable friend. That's why we're working with DWP, that's why we're working with MHCLG. We're working across government to make sure that we can get support to households, and we can target that support to households so that we are helping people that we know are absolutely struggling at the moment.
Holden.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. It was interesting to hear that the government frontbench talk about how humble this side of the House should be. Clearly, the Shadow Energy Secretary is so humble, he's not even bothering to turn up for this so supposedly important statement today. This statement is no more than a smokescreen, as we see energy bills going up yet again. Will the Minister actually come rise to the dispatch box and tell us when we will see that £300, when my constituents will see that £300 energy cut promised by her government? When also will she also actually have a look again, as she talked about international markets? Why on earth is this government not looking again at drilling in the North Sea? It's absolutely vital we do that today, and maybe if they did that, they could actually afford, rather than helping out a little bit with means-tested benefits, all of my constituents on £12,000 or £13,000 a year, pensioners who are losing their winter fuel payments this very year. Why won't they take a look at that as well?
Again, I would remind the honourable member that with the legacy of the party opposite, a bit more humility will be warranted. We are committed to driving down energy bills. Everything we are doing as a department sits and hinges on that central task. Clean power, everyone, the regulator, industry, recognises the reasons why prices are going up is because of this reliance on global fossil fuel prices. We're committed to dealing with that. And whilst we do that, we're committed to providing support to the most vulnerable. We are taking action. They were in power for 14 years and did absolutely nothing. Absolute shame.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome the Minister's statement. Will my honourable friend join me in praising the work of citizens' advice teams, such as those that I've seen in my constituency of Rugby, who provide really helpful support, including helping them to navigate the numerous support schemes that the government have put in place, but they also deal with debt management and income maximisation. They're helping our constituents at a difficult time when it comes to the cost of living crisis that we inherited. Does she agree that this is valuable work and deserves our continuing support?
My honourable friend is completely right. Citizens Advice and the network of third-party organisations and charities that they work to are providing some of the most vital support to our constituents at a really, really difficult time. Well, they are a key partner. We work with them. We're engaging with them. I'm going across the country meeting their teams because we absolutely need their help in order to target support to the most vulnerable.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank the Minister for her statement. I won't thank you for the madness contained within it, because recently we've discovered a new gas field in Lincolnshire where we can frack the gas, yet we are still importing fracked gas from the United States, which is creating all sorts of mayhem in the atmosphere. Does the Minister agree with me it would be better for the environment to frack our own gas than import it from America?
So I'm disappointed that the honourable member didn't listen to my statement, because I'm sure if he had listened to it properly, he wouldn't have come out with that statement. Look, once again, there will be a mix, but we are clear that the route and the quickest route by which we drive down energy bills is clean power. Clean power by 2030. That is sprinting at it. There is no other route to delivering energy security for our country and financial security for the country. We know this. The industry are behind us on this, and we are working in order to deliver it.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I welcome the support in this statement and the 300,000 houses that will be insulated in the next year. Does the Minister agree that the only long-term solution for energy security is our clean power plan? Yeah. It will be good for areas like mine. The CBI pointed out yesterday that the green economy is growing 3 times quicker than our economy in this country. People want us to speed up, not slow down.
My honourable friend is 100% right. This is the route by which we deliver for people's pockets, but critically that we deliver the jobs that we need across the country and that we boost our economy. We are clear-sighted about what needs to be done. It's a shame that the party opposite is so blinkered.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. We need to produce more energy at home from renewables and oil and gas, as we need a diverse energy mix here in the UK. And this will help us deal with the volatile global energy markets. So when will the government change course and support the UK's oil and gas industry with the cluster based in North East Scotland, and issue new oil and gas licences which will help bring down bills for residents across the country and in my constituency of Bromsgrove?
I would direct the honourable member to the Clean Power Plan and the analysis that was done by the way in which we deliver energy security. We are clear and we believe that this is the quickest and the best route by which we do that, because in the end there is one thing that is guiding what we do, which is how we get to lower bills and lower bills for the long term. And we believe that this is the way to do it. The rest of the system agrees with us, from the regulator through to Nesil. Our job now is to crack on and deliver that.
Tom Collins.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome this statement from the Minister, with practical steps to support people with their bills, but also with a long-term plan delivered at speed to transition to a resilient, sustainable, clean energy system which takes advantage of the incredible advances in renewables in recent years, with offshore wind now providing really low-cost power, and which is underpinned by UK-led innovation in technologies such as hydrogen, but also to support households to upgrade their homes. The Minister has laid out ambitious plans and has made some excellent early progress in upgrading homes. Will she continue working in partnership with UK innovators and manufacturers to make it not just possible but easy for homeowners to keep their homes warm with dependable, clean and affordable energy?
I thank my honourable friend. He is completely right, and we are committed to working with industry on upgrading our homes. Our number one priority is that we believe that upgrading homes is the route that we drive down bills, but we need to make that as easy as possible for consumers across the country. So we're working with industry, we're working across the piece to make sure that we deliver that at pace.
Luke Taylor.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome many of the measures announced in the statement, although I would echo my honourable friend, the member for Bath's request to consider decoupling the electricity and gas price link, which will make so much of a difference. In 2023, Sutton Council were blocked by the opposition Conservative group from partaking a an EU grant to help upgrade some of our council houses to EPCC. I welcome the Warm Homes Social Housing Fund noted in here. Can I please encourage the Minister and the rest of the government to please increase the amounts available in these funds to reward ambitious councils to provide better, warmer homes for their residents as often as possible?
Thank you to the member. We are committed to working with local and regional government. We are increasing the support that's provided, and we're ensuring that it's long-term support, because we agree that actually the route by which we can insulate lots of homes is to have that partnership on the ground with local and regional government so that we can deliver homes that are warmer and that are cheaper to run.
Speaker, Northern Ireland is the only region of this United Kingdom where the Warm Homes discount scheme is not available. Since 2011, the UK Government have failed to grasp this issue. The reason given has been that fuel poverty is a devolved issue, and yet the same can be said of Scotland and of Wales. So when the price increases in an announcement next week in Northern Ireland, this assistance is not available. Will she therefore agree to meet with me and discuss this matter, and furthermore that she will open conversations with the Northern Ireland Executive on trying to right this wrong?
Thank you to the member. We are working with the Northern Ireland Executive, and we're reaching out to them, and I'll be very happy to meet and speak about this specific issue.
Finally, Anne Davies.
Diolch, Madam Dirprwy Llefarydd. Extending the warm home discount to all households receiving means-tested benefits could make a difference to many, especially when they haven't received their winter fuel payment this winter. But £150 off won't go far enough to help the 56% of adults in Wales likely to ration their energy over the next 3 months, according to NEA Cymru, the National Energy Association. With the energy price cap rising again in April, will the Minister admit that we need long-term solutions to tackle energy affordability, such as a social energy tariff, something that I've asked for since I came to this House last July, in order to support... Sorry.
So I agree with the honourable member that absolutely we need long-term solutions. That's why we've talked constantly about the Clean Power Mission, but it is also why we are clear that whilst we make that transition, we will be supporting the most vulnerable households. This is an important first step, extending support to over 6 million people next winter that we know that we're struggling, and we'll continue to build on that in the weeks and months ahead.
That is the end of that statement. I'll give a few moments for the front bench to swap over.